You're watching Justified by Jury, and for the 30th anniversary of TLC's sophomore album, CrazySexyCool, we're going to dive deep into the era that defined TLC, highlighting not only the album, its hits and cultural impact, but also dive deep into the group's personal and professional lives around this time, and how the many battles they faced throughout this era gave the public first-hand look into the shady ways of the industry, long before the days of social media. If there are any other musical acts whose eras you'd like to see defined, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Let's get started. Now, TLC would be one of the first acts to put Atlanta on the map when they burst onto the scene in 1992 with their platinum-selling debut album, Ooh on the TLC Tip, a fresh sound described as New Jill Swing that came with a few hits and moderate media coverage over their unique sense of style and controversial lyrics that both promoted safe sex. And many people wondered just what lied ahead for this young trio of ferocious women in such a male-dominated industry. Being signed to Babyface and L.A. Reid's label LaFace Records under the tutelage of Clive Davis at Arista Records, the group were promoted heavily and quickly racked up soundtrack appearances like The Reversal of a Dog for the Boomerang film, their moderate hit Get It Up for the Poetic Justice film, and even their own rendition of Sleigh Ride for the Home Alone 2 Lost in New York soundtrack. And each one of these songs had that signature TLC layering of T-Bozz's raspy vocals, Left Eye's flamin' hot raps, and Chili's smooth melodic ad-libs. They had a system, and it was working. They were gaining notoriety and awards, but their paychecks were always low for some reason. L.A. Reid's then-wife, Perry Reid, who was a singer by the name of Pebbles, was TLC's manager. She was described as running a tight ship to ensure the girls were on top of their game, while also being apprehensive to give the girls any insight into their contracts, much less their finances. The bigwigs were enjoying the fruits that TLC's labor was bringing in, but very seldom did they let the girls enjoy a piece of the pie. Also, Pebbles' overbearingness was said to have gotten in the way of many of the group's opportunities. She would deny offers left and right without ever running things by the girls. When rapper MC Lyte had recruited Left Eye to be featured on her upcoming hit called Roughneck, where Left Eye had made plans to lay a rap for the second verse, Pebbles interceded on the feature, demanding 80% of the total royalties from the song, according to the song's producer, Walter Scott.
But what happened when Pebbles heard the song, Pebbles said she wanted 80% of the whole song. And so me, MC Lyte, Arkeel was going to have to split 20%.
You're kidding me, just because Left Eye was on it?
Yeah. And so, MC Lyte turned it down. She did the whole song herself.
Also, whenever T-Boz, who suffers with sickle cell anemia, would have a health crisis that left her in the hospital for days on end, and even weeks at a time, Pebbles was said to have been somewhat apathetic and eager to get T-Boz back out on the stage. So after much tension and feeling like Pebbles didn't have their best interests, TLC would go on ahead and fire her as their manager. But doing so would be no easy process, as she had acquired the trademark for TLC. So in order for them to buy back their namesake, they'd have to pay her $1 million per letter for a total of $3 million. But now being in the driver's seat of their careers, TLC were determined to make enough money to buy back all the money they had lost tenfold, starting by taking a look at some of these opportunities that Pebbles had been declining on their behalf. Left Eye would take her unreleased rap from Roughneck and use it in the song Make Some Noise, which she performed along with her group members in the film House Party 3, where the girls had made their first film debut as a trio called Sex as a Weapon.
Well, I know when House Party 3 came up, it was a question about a girls group that had to be casted, which was Sex as a Weapon. And I know we know this guy named Steve. He works with Kid and Play. And he kicked our names around to them. Next thing you know, they were calling us. We would have did acting a long time ago, but we had problems with our former management. And we were getting scripts and stuff that we never knew about. So, it's something that we always wanted to do, but now that we have reorganized and got ourselves with some real business people, we get to do things.
Crazy, sexy, cool.
As TLC began the early stages of writing and recording their next album, the initial sound hadn't strayed too far from the sounds of their first album. One of the earlier recordings was a song titled Caught in Your World, a collaboration with up-and-coming artist John B. that features mostly Left Eye on the verses, with John B and T-Boz doing the hooks and harmonies along with the bridge, which wasn't unusual for the group. On their first album, Songs like Something You Wanna Know and This Is How It Should Be Done had Left Eye rapping all the verses while the other members sang on the hook, giving her the space to unleash her full creativity. Left Eye would also be featured on Keith Sweat's 1994 single called How You Like It, and appeared in the song's music video, achieving her first hit outside the group. Things were on track professionally. However, personally, Left Eye had been on a bit of a spiral, really since the group's debut. You see, the day that TLC signed their record deal was the day that her father had been killed after an altercation with his cousin. So Left Eye had been grieving his death her entire career, essentially. But TLC had provided an avenue of escape for her through expressing her creativity. It gave her something to do, something to continue living for. Still, she struggled with alcohol and in her love life. You see, her father was a wise old man, but was also very domineering and at times abusive. Left Eye would scout out similar traits in her choice of men as an adult. She became involved with NFL wide receiver Andre Rison, who was like her father in many ways. They loved each other passionately, and when times were good, they were good. But they had many altercations that led to destruction of property, weapons charges, and other legal troubles. But all of that would come to a head in June of 1994, when after a physical fight with Andre, Left Eye set fire to his sneakers in the tub of his mansion that the two lived in together along with many of his and her family members. Not realizing that the tub was made of flammable fiberglass, Left Eye and her sister were caught off guard by just how fast the fire grew, to the point that the 15,000 square foot mansion was engulfed in flames. While everyone managed to get out safe, Left Eye's personal struggles were about to be magnified.
We received a call at 6:43, and our units were on the scene probably in 4 to 5 minutes, and we had full involvement of the attic area.
Ryson learned that his home had burned down after the fact. Incredibly, the fire trucks passed him when he was walking.
One of the comments he made to us in his interview was that he saw the fire trucks go by, but he didn't realize they were going to his house.
Lopez went to a local hospital to seek medical attention. When fire investigators went to arrest her, she couldn't be found.
The reason Lisa did not turn herself in immediately was due to her lawyer. That would be me. And there was a $250,000 bond that was set on her. We didn't know what her financial ability was to make that bond.
While Cohen worked to lower the bail, Lopez hid out in this Atlanta hotel. Before her trial, Lopez says she had come to terms with events that had happened.
I'm over it to the point where, I can function and be happy every day and, not let it get to me and bother me. So, things happen, but, I got to put it behind me and keep on moving and do it.
Are you going to plead not guilty at the trial?
Well, you'll see.
Now, Andre had forgiven her and even assisted in bailing her out of jail. He would be by her side at her court appearances and even spoke on her behalf at sentencing. Though the pair reconciled, the courts weren't so forgiving. Left Eye would eventually plead guilty to 1 count of first-degree arson, and ultimately she would be ordered to spend 3 months in a halfway house with 5 years probation, a $10,000 fine, and a must-pay restitution to the firefighters who were injured during the incident.
I had to go to jail, and I had to wait there because they sentenced me to 3 months in a diversion center. So until my bed was ready at the diversion center, I went to jail. I only stayed there for 5 days. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, it was better. The diversion center was hell. Now, that was much worse than I thought it was going to be. And on top of that, I had a $10,000 fine. I got 5 years of probation. It's a headache. It's getting on my nerves. And, but I did my 3 months. Successfully completed that, and I paid my fine, and so now the only thing that I'm working on is these 5 years probation.
Though her public image would be tarnished in the media, and TLC would suffer for it by losing out on some brand deals that they had lined up in anticipation for this new album, TLC had essentially been thrust into the mainstream like never before with being the topic of conversation. And with all eyes on the group, people who weren't familiar with their previous work were eager to hear just what these women had to offer in the present day, and this only fueled the group's passion to come back harder than ever before. When thinking of what to title this next project, Left Eye, who had titled the last album, wanted the concept to revolve around a single word that encompasses all 3 of their personalities as they embraced this new chapter of womanhood. In the press, and to the fans, Left Eye was often dubbed as the crazy member of the group, while Chili showcased the most sensuality, and T-Boz always kept it cool. But after realizing that all three of them displayed levels of craziness, sexiness, and coolness in their own unique ways, she decided to name the project CrazySexyCool. Chili would later say that every woman has a crazy or a sexy or a cool side. You can be all three, but one is definitely more prominent than the other. And the group, who were featured in Whitney Houston's remake of I'm Every Woman, now had their own phrase that women could relate to and refer to themselves as. However, because Left Eye was spending time in the Diversion Center, her presence would be greatly reduced on this album, and the direction of the sound did change, now making T-Boz the centerpiece and main vocalist. Where with the first album, it was T-Boz and Left Eye having equal parts where Chili came in every now and again, but Left Eye would get scheduled supervised visits to the studio every blue moon where she would come in and lay a few raps down. For this album, TLC would work with the same producers, Dallas Austin and Babyface, who largely contributed to their first album, but L.A. Reid also recruited a slew of new producers for this project, as they wanted the ladies to have a sound that represented their evolution as artists and women. This list included the likes of P. Did It, and the late Bad Boy producer Chucky Thompson. But holding true to ATL roots, TLC would be among the first to work with Organized Noise, who would become key producers in establishing the sounds of ATL's biggest artists, along with production from Jermaine Dupri, who was like a big brother to the girls. Before they were famous, he'd look in on them, giving Lisa a place to stay while she helped him write music for his proteges, Criss Cross. He was also the first artist to do demos with TLC before they were even signed, and he produced a song on their first album called Bad By Myself. This new album would also feature ATL's own Andre 3000 from Outkast, along with Busta Rhymes and the late Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest. The inclusion of male rappers on what would become such a monumental mainstream release will forever be a defining moment for the culture, as it aided in putting the masses on to sounds of 90s hip-hop that they might not have been privy to otherwise, at least not voluntarily. And each rapper expressed their gratitude for being included on the project, though this would be a rare occurrence, as TLC's previous album, along with their next album and the one after that, wouldn't contain any guest-featured raps. But all studio sessions for CrazySexyCool would be completed by September of 1994, and the following month they released their first single, Creep, produced by Dallas Austin, and sampling Slick Rick's Hey Young World. It opens with signature horns and T-Boz announcing the return of TLC, saying, "Yes, it's me again, and I'm back," before going into her melodic chanting and then hitting the first verse with that low register that she was known for. The song then goes on to portray TLC as women who cheat on their unfaithful lovers. The song was based on a personal experience that T-Boz had with one of her boyfriends. She said, "You're with a guy and he's not showing you attention, so another guy comes along and you're like, hey, if you were where you were supposed to be, he couldn't be showing me attention right now. I was in the middle of this drama because the other guy was my boyfriend's friend, and my boyfriend was just not getting it together." Now, Creep would be a bold single choice at the time, one that Clive Davis himself had handpicked as the lead. And with a group whose music was as fire as its lyrics were controversial, it was right on brand. Within a month of its release, the single was certified gold and later went platinum. Creep became the group's first single to go #1 on many charts, including the Hot 100, the Hot R&B Hip Hop chart, the Dance chart, and the Rhythmic chart. The song would later win Best R&B Soul Single by a Group, Band, or Duo at the first Soul Train Lady of Soul Awards, and it snagged TLC their very first Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. Their 12-inch vinyl release contained a remix called Jermaine's Jeep Mix, which also featured new vocals by T-Boz and Jermaine Dupri, and that remix had a beat that was definitely one for the speakers in your Jeep, make you want to turn that volume all the way up. They weren't playing around with this new music. The song's subject matter and its infectious tune sparked public interest very quickly and became somewhat of an anthem for women's empowerment, as male artists were always singing or rapping about having multiple lovers, but women were often told to keep your business behind closed doors and be ladylike. But with Creep, women were unapologetic about playing the man's game. John Perales of the New York Times put it best when he wrote, "The women singing about infidelity, revenge, status, and power plays, not as victims but as contenders. When they're cheated on, they cheat too." However, Left Eye was not feeling the song at all.
I was totally 100% against Creep when it was supposed to come out. And let me tell you something. For the first 2 albums, I was against the first single. And I was outvoted both times, and both of the singles blew up. So now I kind of just sit in the back of the meetings when people are choosing the singles. So I was totally against that song because I wasn't down with cheating on your man. You know, for me, it's be faithful. I just didn't believe, and I just didn't know. You know, is this the kind of message we should be sending out to people? And trust me, I fought against that single coming out.
She recorded a rap in protest of the song's message. T-Boz stated that the rap was intended to be included on the original version of the song, but that herself and producer Dallas Austin disagreed with Left Eye's rap and opted to have it removed, and instead placed it on one of the remix versions of the song, which there would be many remixes that were released on Creep's maxi singles. Left Eye's verse will be included on the Super Smooth remix, which got airplay on many radio stations, the Untouchables mix, and the DARP remix that was recorded at DARP Studios. Now this version featured additional vocals by Left Eye throughout the entire track, as she essentially made it her own. Now a version with her rap over the original beat is up on YouTube. I'll post the link in the description if you want to listen to it. But when it came time to do the music video for the song, Left Eye felt like Andre may have thought that she was condoning the message, threatened to wear black tape over her mouth during the filming of the video, in full protest. But in the end, she decided to wear tape over one eye instead. Now there would be 3 different videos that were shot for Creep. The first one being directed by Craig Henry, who had also directed the video for Craig Mack's Flavor in Your Ear. This version of Creep had a dance sequence that was reminiscent of dance scenes from their debut era. But overall, the video was lackluster, so they scrapped it. And they linked up with Lionel C. Martin, who had directed a few of their past videos like Ain't Too Proud to Beg and Sleigh Ride. Now the second version had featured more of a storyline and more dancing that T-Boz herself choreographed. The women did wear the same clothes from the first video, but had more outfit changes. You can tell there was a bigger budget on this video. And maybe for any average group in the 90s, this video would have sufficed. But TLC weren't your average, and they were dissatisfied with both videos. They looked to what other girl groups were doing, and after seeing Salt-N-Pepa's videos for What a Man with En Vogue and None of Your Business, they decided to recruit the director of both of those videos, Matthew Ralston. Now Matthew had brought on board a new team of makeup artists, wardrobe hairstylists, and initially had some steamy lingerie outfits in mind for TLC, who had been all about the tomboy image up to this point. Not willing to go that far just yet, the girls would settle on bright colored flowing silk pajamas, T-Boz in blue, Left Eye in red, and Chili in pink for some scenes, while in others her colors were digitally edited to appear gray, for a black and white effect. The video abandons the storyline theme and focuses more on capturing the women's essence and sensuality as they sing and pose between the shots. T-Boz has a male love interest who mimics playing the horns as she sings the verses. The video also features the girls dancing the same routine that T-Boz choreographed from the first 2 videos. And though Left Eye ditched the tape, she stood on business about protesting the song's lyrics and wouldn't even mouth the words in any of the 3 videos or any of the live performances of the song. And this video would become the iconic visual that showcased TLC in a whole new light, from shorties into women. Around the same time that this video was released, the Vibe magazine issue for November of 1994 was hitting the stands, and it featured TLC on the cover in firefighters' uniforms with the headline that read, "TLC fires it up, burning up the charts and burning down the house," which came off as very brazen and, in Left Eye's case, unapologetic for her arson attempt. Though the group later said that they were caught off guard as they did many shots with many different outfits, and hadn't thought twice about putting on the fireman's gear, and definitely didn't anticipate it being the cover photo, nor the headline, but they were going to ride that controversial wave regardless, as always. And on November 15th, 1994, TLC would drop their much anticipated sophomore album, CrazySexyCool, to critical acclaim and fanfare worldwide. And as I've done in previous era-defining episodes, we're going to go track by track and describe each song on the album, which opens up with an intro-lude produced by Jermaine Dupri, and features Phife Dawg reciting a line from his group's hit, Oh My God, where he had referenced TLC and Dawn from En Vogue. But on this intro, he goes more in depth about the members of TLC being crazy, sexy, and cool, while Andre Rison provides his own ad-libs talking about Left Eye and how she's the dime piece, all while the words
Crazy, sexy, cool
are whispered throughout the background. Though TLC wouldn't appear on this track, it is the introduction that ushers in their first hit, Creep, coming in as track 2, in its rightful spot to kick off the project and the era. The next track is Kick Your Game, another Jermaine produced joint that features all 3 members at the club encouraging the brothers in the spot to kick some game at them. The girls are in the mood, and if the men play their cards right, They might be lucky enough to take one of them home tonight. T-Boz provides the verses, Chili provides the bridges, and Left Eye comes in with the rap, this time taking on the role as not only herself, but also as Andre, rapping similar lines to the ones that he approached her with when he first met her, like flexing a home studio where she can drop by so they can make music, and referencing the 50-yard line where they can make love. This track quickly became a fan favorite. Track 4 was a sweet summer jam called Diggin' On You, written and produced by Babyface, and described as a pop ballad with soul pop influence. Now this echoes the subject matter from the previous track, as it involves a man kicking a little game at T-Boz, via Chili, who he had sent to talk to T-Boz on his behalf. However, the ambiance is a bit different, as T-Boz is relaxing in the park with her Kool-Aid on the 4th of July. Yet and still she gives him a shot, as she's digging the scene, and is digging on him digging on her. She gotta be in love or something like that. Now sonically, the track is a bit different, as TLC were exploring different sounds on this project, but it all came together beautifully and cohesively. It's one of my top favorite TLC songs. Now track 5 is Case of the Fake People, produced by Dallas Austin, and it's talking about backstabbers and the people who smile in your face but are hoping for your downfalls as they want your place. Sampling OJ's hit, Backstabbers, and in many ways is a continuation of their song, What About Your Friends? And although I always loved this song, I found even more appreciation for it the older I've gotten. The Crazy Sexy Cool interlude, track 6, features T-Boz breaking down the type of women that a man should go for, and getting into the crazy, sexy, and cool characteristics that the right kind of woman possesses. The beat for this interlude was produced by Sean Combs, who provides ad-libs, because you know he just had to jump on the hottest album of the year. Now track 7, Red Light Special, will become TLC's signature slow jam. You see, on the first album they got their feet wet with Baby 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 for the young adults, but Red Light Special was music for grown folks. I'm talking passionate love-making marathons that I can't really elaborate any further on YouTube about, but between T-Boz's sultry rasp and Chili's silky smooth vocals on the bridge, this song quickly made it onto damn near every slow jam compilation CD that came out. Y'all remember them late night commercials? Don't act like y'all ain't know. I think my family had the Love Me Down slow jam CD. And yeah, Red Light Special was on there too, and it will forever be on the 90s R&B love-making playlist. The next song, Waterfalls, would be the record to catapult TLC to legendary heights. With the original melody sampling Paul McCartney's Don't Go Jumpin' Waterfalls, Please Keep to the Lake, the song's initial concept was created by Marquez Etheridge and the late Rico Wade of Organized Noise. Now Rico was the one who had initially introduced T-Boz to Left Eye as friends, before a group was ever thought of. Talk about a full circle moment. Now he had called T-Boz to the studio as he felt like her vocals would fit perfectly on the record. She got there and laid down her vocals, while their good friend CeeLo Green just so happened to be chilling in the room. T-Boz had said to him, "Hey, you sing good, why don't you sing backup?" She said, "I knew him and we grew up together, we go way back. He did background vocals and it was amazing, I love his voice." Back then everyone knew him as a rapper with Goody Mob, but now the world knows him as a singer, but he was like that years ago. The song's lyrical content would be one for the history books as well, as the verses serve as cautionary tales to chasing waterfalls. Now the song was being demoed while Left Eye was serving time in a diversion center. Left Eye had said, "I had been there for 3 weeks, and my record company calls and says, hey, we're recording a song called Waterfalls." Now Left Eye had 2 6-hour passes to the Atlanta studio. En route to the studio, she says, "I look up in the sky and I see this rainbow and everything looks so beautiful because I hadn't been outside in 3 weeks."
I got to the studio and they played me the song. I instantly liked it. I instantly thought it was a hit. I loved it. So I took it back with me to the Charter Peachford, where I was staying at. And I began to write my rap. And the next day I had 1 more 6-hour pass to where I could go to the studio and lay the rap down. But when I was writing it, you know, the first thing I said was, I seen a rainbow yesterday. You know, and I just started reflecting on my life as if it was a storm. You know, and how, like, too many storms have come and gone. And they don't even leave a trace of sunlight, God's given rays. It's just like when it rains and pours, everything's bad. So, hey, I wrote that song from my heart. I don't know what inspired Marquez to write the song, but hey, turned out to be our biggest hit, and it was my favorite song for more reasons than one. That's my favorite song for a lot of reasons. For one, because I like the way Tion's voice is scratchy on it. For 2, because I like the message on it, because I can relate to it, and not just because of that, because it's dope. The way, not just the message, but the way they wrote the message. I have my rap, and that covers a whole bunch of stuff, but that really came from the heart, and that's my favorite song.
Wanna have it your way or nothing at all, but I think you're moving too fast.
Now, with all of the eroticism from Red Light Special, followed by the grandiosity of Waterfalls, I guess the TLC camp felt like its listeners needed a moment to collect themselves, and that's where track 9, the intermission lude, comes in. A Jermaine Dupri instrumental from the first track that plays for around 45 seconds. This is your moment to run and grab a snack real quick and get back to the album. Track 10, Let's Do It Again, is talking about marathon lovemaking again, but without the erotic role-playing or theatrics from Red Light Special. It was produced by Babyface, and you can hear his influence all throughout the record. And honestly, if another group did this song, I could have seen it being a hit record. But because TLC would go on to have such rave standouts from this album, other songs simply stood out more, and so this song often gets overlooked. Track 11, If I Was Your Girlfriend, a remake of Prince's hit of the same name, had been produced by Chucky Thompson and Dallas Austin. Initially, they were shopping it around to Diddy's group, Total, and even eyeing Mary J. Blige for possible inclusion on her upcoming album. But TLC caught wind of the track and fought hard to have it. Not only did TLC kill the remake, but it also got Prince's stamp of approval, which didn't happen often when other artists tried to cover his work, but he was a big fan of the girls. Track 12 is another interlude that features Chili calling someone on the phone, and when the dude picks up, she doesn't tell him who she is, but she tells him that she ain't wearing nothing. And after teasing him for a little bit, and getting him turned on, she ends up pranking him in an unflattering way before hanging up. You can listen to it on your own for further info, but I will note that the man on the other end was none other than the diddler himself. I know he was heated, but then again he produced it, so he was probably loving every bit of it. I don't know. Now track 13, Take Our Time, gives us the steamy energy that Chili was initially teasing us with in the previous interlude, and she's in full force on this one. Another steamy slow jam, but she wants to take things even slower and just take the time out for them both to enjoy each other intimately. Now let me just say that this is one of them songs where the beginning just pops in your head randomly. It don't matter what you're doing, and you're like, you know what, I ain't heard this track in a minute. Let me go put it on. And every time you play it, you're just blown away. Every time. It's like the first time listening to it. And Deborah Killings ate up those background vocals. I mean, she is the unofficial 4th member of TLC just because she's done background on so many of their songs, but this song especially was her and Chili shining moments vocally on any TLC project in my opinion. And this song could have easily been a single, but like I said earlier, because TLC would have other songs that took priority, this one would take a back seat. Track 14 is yet another interlude called Can I Get a Witness, used the same instrumental from the CrazySexyCool interlude, but this time with Busta Rhymes describing the type of crazy sexy woman that he wants, as TLC wanted to showcase this from a man's perspective as well, and he said what we the fellas were thinking. Also, Left Eye would do the ad-libs this time around, as they wanted to switch the roles entirely. And speaking of, the next track, Switch, produced by Jermaine Dupri and sampling Mr. Big Stuff by the late Gene Knight, was a song about a man cutting up, cheating, and being demanding, and the girls weren't having it. So the remedy was to switch and get a new man, or in some cases, switch and take his friend, a line that sampled Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. This track features all 3 members, and it introduces a method that Left Eye preferred over the creep method.
If a girl is going to catch her man cheating, this was my thing. Instead of telling her to cheat back, why don't we tell her to just leave?
Embrace, new face, come on. Erase, replace, embrace, new face. Switch.
Closing out the album was track 16, Sumthin Wicked, This Way Comes, the title of which comes from Shakespeare's play, Macbeth, where the second witch says, Something wicked this way comes. The wicked thing is Macbeth himself, who by this point in the play is a traitor and a killer. T-Boz interpolates this in the first verse when she speaks of the powers that be, telling them to look in the mirror. Shout out to JG Music 97 for pointing this out. But this stellar track goes even deeper than the surface, with Left Eye tapping into spiritual warfare and questioning the concept of time. while giving an ode to Andre Rison, whose nickname was Bad Moon. But a more prominent Andre on this track is Andre 3000, who opens the song talking about weapons and gang wars, along with talking about the everyday struggle of black people back in '94, and reminiscing on the days of yesterday, which ironically is a feeling expressed by those of today, 30 years later, who would give anything to go back to the 90s when music was real, and so was the love, even amidst the drama. Essentially, the entire hook in this song could be applied to 2024, and even then it would be an understatement. Aside from that, Andre also threw shade at Michael Jackson on this record when he said, "It keeps you on your tippy toes," like that sellout, not calling no names, but really, who's bad? Which was a bold move on his part, and even bolder was the fact that the team had approved it. As a matter of fact, this was the second time that members of TLC would be featured on a track that dissed Michael Jackson. Back in 1991, T-Boz sang background on a track called Word to the Bad, which was a diss on Michael Jackson from his brother Jermaine Jackson. Now Jermaine Dupri had produced the record, which also had Left Eye credited as a co-writer. Funny enough, TLC have gone on record many a time expressing their love for Michael Jackson, and even drew inspiration from him in many of their future works, with Chili calling him her husband on several occasions.
All right. Second show with my sister-in-law, Miss Janet Jackson.
Well, if you don't know, Michael Jackson is my husband. He is.
You're not a fan. He's your husband.
Yes.
Right. Michael Jackson is probably the only person I would show up to everything.
Of course she has to. That's her brother-in-law.
Go ahead now. Hello.
But I digress. Now there were a few unreleased cuts from this album, one being a full song called Crazy Sexy Cool, produced by Tim and Bob, where each girl had lead vocals, Lisa rapping the first verse for the crazy portion, Chili on the second verse for the sexy portion, and T-Boz closing out the third verse for the cool portion. However, this song never made the cut, and I can't help but wonder if the song was like That's the Way We Like 'Em from their first album, where each member actually rapped on the record. I always thought that was kind of cool how they did that, and I wanted them to do it again, but we may never know whatever came of this track as it remains unreleased and unheard. Another unreleased track was called Oh Honey that T-Boz did with Dallas Austin. Now there's much conversation surrounding them honey packets in 2024. If you know, you know. But TLC was already ahead of the game.
This song Oh Honey was made in 1994. I said that I didn't want to play the music because it was something special between me and Dallas. It was a solo song. I was singing Crazy Sexy Cool. You know, whatever. But the music's special, and it's been raining. The music's special, so I don't want to give that up. And it reminds you of a Prince song. The words are very vulgar, sort of. I mean, it's not vulgar. Well, I don't know what the hell to call it. It's nasty. It was about these people that we knew that used to put honey on each other and lick it off and stuff.
However, this song would be left off the project, but re-recorded in 2017 for an inclusion on TLC's last album, which in the end it was also removed from. Why? I don't know. Also, the collaboration that Left Eye did with John B would also be left off this album, but it was considered for inclusion on the upcoming soundtrack for the film Bad Boys, and had even made it onto early tapes that contained songs considered for the project. But it was ultimately discarded, and John B's collaboration with Babyface would instead make the cut and be his breakout hit. But all in all, Crazy Sexy Cool was a solid offering of timeless music that was beloved by millions, over 15 million to date to be exact. This album was the first album from a female group ever to go diamond, and it did so in under a year, and stayed on the albums chart for over 2 years. Its awards and accolades are numerous, and it has since been listed as the 7th most critically acclaimed album in music history. In your mouth.
To me, I think the second album is almost more important than the first album, because if that's successful, then you're on the map. You kind of like can do your own thing at that point. So I was like, oh Lord, okay, it's gonna be good. Are we gonna blow up? Are we gonna beat what we did last time? Because we sold 5 million, a little more than the first time. So okay, all right. And we're not done yet. That's right. We got a long way to go in this business. So we're gonna be here for a long time.
Now with all this revelry, you would think that TLC would be over the moon, but they weren't exactly happy with the process on how the album came together. Fans had noted how Left Eye's presence felt more occasional than anything else. As a matter of fact, for the entire 16 tracks on the final cut, Lisa would only appear on a fourth of that, and an additional interlude. a far cry from her heavy influence on the first album. And while her time in the diversion center hindered some of the input that she had, she stated in an article with The Face, "I went to the producers with a set of tracks I had written, and not a single one got used for the album." Apparently, one of the tracks she wrote was in tribute to her father. That was also scrapped. Unfortunately for Left Eye, the same thing would happen for her on TLC's third album, Fan Mail.
It's just like Left Eye. She's a songwriter and a producer. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a lot of her songs didn't get on the album simply because of political stuff and decisions that were made by men. So it's like that's another struggle that women have to keep trying to get over. You know, it's just like putting your foot in the door, and you just can't stop just because it's all men seem like, all producers seem like it's men and all the writers are men.
Yet and still, out of all the girls, Left Eye would be the only member to have any writing or production credits on this album. And that was only on the little bit of songs they gave her. You see, even though TLC had solidified themselves and petitioned for more control, the powers that be didn't want them involved on the business side of things. Y'all get out there and dance. Work on earning us back the advancement money we lent y'all for the time being. And the girls would go out and do just that.